Question 1. The assessment process reveals that a public relations team is under significant pressure to launch a new product campaign quickly. They have limited time and budget for research. Which research and planning approach would best ensure the campaign is strategically sound and ethically responsible, while acknowledging these constraints? Option A. Prioritize qualitative research to understand stakeholder sentiment and potential crisis issues, followed by targeted quantitative data to inform specific metrics and validate insights. Option B. Focus exclusively on broad quantitative surveys to gather as much data as possible on general market trends. Option C. Proceed with campaign execution based on internal assumptions and anecdotal feedback to meet the launch deadline. Option D. Conduct a brief review of competitor press releases and social media mentions, without in-depth analysis of audience perceptions or potential risks. Correct answer is A. Prioritize qualitative research to understand stakeholder sentiment and potential crisis issues, followed by targeted quantitative data to inform specific metrics and validate insights. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge in strategic public relations, balancing the need for comprehensive research with the practical constraints of time and budget. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a PR practitioner to make informed decisions about resource allocation and research methodology, without compromising the integrity or effectiveness of the strategic plan. The pressure to deliver results quickly can sometimes lead to shortcuts that undermine the foundational research, potentially leading to misaligned objectives, ineffective targeting, or a failure to anticipate potential issues. Careful judgment is required to select research methods that are both feasible and provide actionable insights. The correct approach involves prioritizing qualitative research methods to gain a deep understanding of stakeholder perceptions and potential crisis triggers, followed by targeted quantitative data collection to validate these insights and inform specific campaign metrics. This approach is justified by the principles of strategic public relations, which emphasize understanding audiences and the operating environment before developing communication strategies. Regulatory and ethical frameworks, such as those guiding professional conduct in public relations, mandate thoroughness and accuracy in research to ensure that communications are truthful, responsible, and do not mislead stakeholders. By starting with qualitative methods, the practitioner can identify nuanced issues and potential risks that might be missed by broad quantitative surveys alone, thereby building a more robust and ethical foundation for the PR plan. This aligns with the ethical obligation to act with integrity and to avoid making assumptions that could lead to reputational damage for the client or organization. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on quantitative data collection from the outset is professionally unacceptable because it risks overlooking critical qualitative nuances of stakeholder sentiment and potential crisis triggers. This can lead to a superficial understanding of the situation, resulting in objectives that are not truly aligned with stakeholder needs or perceptions, and a plan that fails to address underlying issues. This approach may also violate ethical guidelines that require a comprehensive understanding of the communication landscape. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate campaign execution without adequate situational analysis or audience segmentation is also professionally unacceptable. This bypasses essential research phases, leading to a reactive rather than strategic approach. Such a failure to conduct proper research and planning can result in misdirected communication efforts, wasted resources, and potentially damaging misinterpretations by target audiences, which contravenes the professional duty to plan strategically and ethically. A third incorrect approach that relies heavily on anecdotal evidence and internal assumptions for situational analysis and objective setting is professionally unacceptable. This lacks the rigor required for strategic decision-making and can lead to significant misjudgments about public perception and potential risks. Ethical public relations practice demands evidence-based strategies, not those based on speculation, which could lead to communications that are out of touch with reality and potentially harmful. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a phased approach. First, conducting a comprehensive situational analysis using a mix of qualitative and quantitative methods to understand the internal and external environment. Second, segmenting and targeting audiences based on this analysis. Third, developing smart objectives that are informed by research. And finally, allocating resources and developing a plan that is adaptable and includes robust crisis communication protocols. This structured process ensures that decisions are data-driven, ethically sound, and strategically aligned with organizational goals. Question 2. Regulatory review indicates that a strategic public relations certification program emphasizes proactive risk assessment as a cornerstone of effective crisis communication planning. Considering a scenario where a manufacturing company is experiencing an unexpected and significant operational disruption due to a critical equipment failure, which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of proactive risk assessment and robust crisis communication planning within a regulated environment? Option A. Conduct a thorough assessment of potential risks associated with the operational disruption, including impacts on supply chains, environmental safety, employee well-being, and regulatory compliance, and use this assessment to inform the development of a multi-stakeholder communication strategy. Option B. Prioritize communicating with investors and the financial market about the potential financial implications of the disruption, delaying broader communication to other stakeholders until the financial impact is fully quantified. Option C. Wait for media inquiries to arise before formulating a comprehensive communication response, relying on existing general crisis communication templates. Option D. Immediately issue a brief statement acknowledging the disruption and assuring stakeholders that the situation is under control, while internally focusing on resolving the technical issue before providing further details. The correct answer is D. Immediately issue a brief statement acknowledging the disruption and assuring stakeholders that the situation is under control, while internally focusing on resolving the technical issue before providing further details. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a public relations professional to balance immediate operational needs with long-term reputational integrity and regulatory compliance during a high-stakes crisis. The pressure to control the narrative and mitigate immediate damage can lead to shortcuts that violate ethical principles and regulatory requirements. Careful judgment is crucial to ensure that communication is not only effective, but also truthful, transparent, and legally sound. The correct approach involves proactively identifying potential risks and developing a comprehensive crisis communication plan that includes clear protocols for stakeholder engagement and media management. This approach aligns with the principles of responsible public relations, emphasizing transparency, accuracy, and accountability. Specifically, regulatory frameworks often mandate timely and accurate disclosure of material information to relevant stakeholders and regulatory bodies. Ethical guidelines for public relations professionals stress the importance of truthfulness and avoiding misleading statements. A well-defined crisis communication plan, informed by thorough risk assessment, ensures that the organization is prepared to respond in a manner that upholds these principles, thereby minimizing legal and reputational harm. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on damage control without a robust risk assessment fails to anticipate potential issues and may lead to reactive, ill-conceived communication. This can result in misstatements, omissions of critical information, or a lack of preparedness, all of which can trigger regulatory scrutiny and penalties. For instance, failing to identify a potential environmental hazard as a significant risk could lead to inadequate communication with affected communities and environmental agencies, potentially violating disclosure requirements. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes internal communication over external stakeholder engagement overlooks the critical need to inform and reassure those directly impacted by the crisis. This can breed distrust and exacerbate reputational damage, potentially leading to legal challenges from stakeholders who feel deliberately kept in the dark. Regulatory bodies often expect organizations to communicate with affected parties in a timely and transparent manner, especially in situations involving public safety or environmental impact. A third incorrect approach that bypasses spokesperson training and relies on ad hoc communication during a crisis significantly increases the risk of inconsistent messaging, factual errors, and unprofessional conduct under pressure. This can undermine credibility and lead to further complications with media and regulatory bodies. Effective spokesperson training ensures that individuals are equipped to communicate accurately, empathetically, and in accordance with organizational policy and regulatory obligations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment framework that identifies potential crises, analyzes their likelihood and impact, and prioritizes mitigation strategies. This should be followed by the development of a comprehensive crisis communication plan that outlines roles, responsibilities, communication channels, and key messages. Regular review and updating of the plan, along with ongoing training for key personnel, are essential. During a crisis, adherence to the plan, coupled with continuous monitoring of the situation and stakeholder feedback, is paramount. Transparency, accuracy, and ethical considerations should guide all communication efforts, ensuring compliance with relevant regulations and maintaining public trust. Question 3. Consider a scenario where a company is facing a growing wave of negative sentiment on social media regarding a product defect, which is beginning to be picked up by local news outlets. The PR team needs to decide on the most effective and ethically sound approach to manage this situation, balancing immediate digital response with traditional media engagement and long-term reputation management. Option A. Prioritize optimizing the company website and product pages with positive keywords and content to improve search engine rankings and push down negative search results, while remaining silent on social media and avoiding direct engagement with journalists. Option B. Delete all negative comments and posts on social media to prevent further spread of misinformation and focus all communication efforts on issuing press releases to traditional media outlets. Option C. Issue a brief, generic statement on social media that states the company is aware of the issue but provides no further details, and instruct customer service to direct all inquiries to a pre-written FAQ document that offers minimal information. Option D. Immediately issue a comprehensive statement on all company social media channels acknowledging the concerns, detailing the steps being taken to investigate and resolve the issue, and offering a dedicated contact point for further inquiries, while simultaneously proactively briefing key journalists with verified information and offering spokespeople for interviews. The correct answer is D. Immediately issue a comprehensive statement on all company social media channels acknowledging the concerns, detailing the steps being taken to investigate and resolve the issue, and offering a dedicated contact point for further inquiries, while simultaneously proactively briefing key journalists with verified information and offering spokespeople for interviews. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in strategic public relations, managing a crisis that has gained traction on social media, impacting traditional media coverage. The core difficulty lies in balancing rapid, transparent communication with the need for accuracy and strategic messaging, all while navigating the fast-paced and often unverified nature of digital platforms. The pressure to respond quickly can lead to missteps that exacerbate the situation, damage reputation, and potentially violate regulatory guidelines if not handled with extreme care. The interconnectedness of digital and traditional media means a poorly managed social media response can quickly spill over into mainstream news, amplifying negative sentiment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a multifaceted strategy that prioritizes immediate acknowledgement, transparent communication, and proactive engagement across both digital and traditional channels. This begins with a swift, empathetic statement on social media, acknowledging the issue and assuring stakeholders that a thorough investigation is underway. Simultaneously, the PR team should proactively reach out to key journalists who have already reported on the issue or are likely to, providing them with accurate, verified information and offering spokespeople for interviews. This demonstrates a commitment to transparency and control over the narrative. Ongoing monitoring of social media sentiment and media coverage is crucial to adapt the strategy as the situation evolves. The use of controlled content marketing, such as blog posts or FAQs on the company website, can provide deeper context and address concerns directly, while also improving SEO for relevant search terms, thereby managing online reputation. This integrated approach aligns with ethical PR principles of honesty, accuracy, and public interest, and implicitly adheres to regulatory expectations for timely and truthful disclosure where applicable, without necessarily triggering specific disclosure requirements unless the situation warrants it. Incorrect approaches analysis. Ignoring or deleting negative social media comments is a failure of transparency and online reputation management. It suggests an attempt to hide information, which can fuel distrust and lead to more negative coverage as users perceive censorship. This approach is ethically unsound and can be interpreted as a lack of accountability. Responding solely through traditional media channels while neglecting social media is an incomplete strategy in today's integrated media landscape. It fails to address the audience directly on the platforms where the initial concerns were raised, allowing misinformation to spread unchecked and potentially alienating a significant stakeholder group. This can lead to a fragmented and inconsistent message. Focusing only on SEO to bury negative content without addressing the underlying issue or engaging with stakeholders is a superficial tactic. While SEO can improve visibility of positive content, it does not resolve the reputational damage or build trust. It can be seen as manipulative and ultimately ineffective in genuine crisis management. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with rapid assessment of the situation and its potential impact. This involves understanding the nature of the issue, the affected stakeholders, and the channels through which information is spreading. The next step is to develop a clear, consistent, and truthful core message. This message should then be disseminated strategically across relevant channels, prioritizing those where the issue is most prominent. A proactive approach to media relations, offering accurate information and access to spokespeople, is vital. Continuous monitoring of both digital and traditional media allows for agile adjustments to the communication strategy. Ethical considerations, such as transparency, honesty, and accountability, must guide every decision. Regulatory compliance, particularly regarding any disclosure obligations, should be a constant consideration, though in this scenario, the focus is on proactive reputation management and communication rather than specific regulatory reporting triggers. Question 4. Compliance review shows that a company is planning a major public relations campaign to highlight its new sustainability initiatives. While the company has made some positive steps, the campaign materials drafted by the PR team focus heavily on aspirational goals and positive media mentions, with limited detail on specific, measurable achievements or any potential challenges encountered during implementation. PR team is under pressure to generate significant positive media coverage to boost the company's brand image, which approach best aligns with the strategic foundations of public relations, core principles, and ethical considerations for reputation management. Option A. Create a campaign that emphasizes the company's commitment to sustainability through emotionally resonant storytelling, without dwelling on specific data or potential implementation hurdles. Option B. Prioritize securing high-profile media placements that showcase the company's sustainability vision, even if the details of current achievements are less concrete, to generate immediate buzz. Option C. Focus on amplifying positive media coverage by highlighting aspirational goals and positive media mentions, downplaying any specific metrics or challenges to maintain a consistently positive narrative. Option D. Develop a communication strategy that emphasizes genuine efforts and tangible progress in CSR initiatives, supported by verifiable data and transparent reporting, while acknowledging areas for improvement. The correct answer is D. Develop a communication strategy that emphasizes genuine efforts and tangible progress in CSR initiatives, supported by verifiable data and transparent reporting, while acknowledging areas for improvement. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the organization's desire for positive publicity with the ethical imperative of transparency and accuracy in public relations. The PR team must navigate the potential for reputational damage if the communication is perceived as misleading, or if the company's actions do not align with its stated commitments. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all communications are not only strategic, but also ethically sound and compliant with relevant professional standards. The correct approach involves developing a communication strategy that highlights the organization's genuine efforts and tangible progress in CSR initiatives, supported by verifiable data and transparent reporting. This aligns with the core principles of public relations, emphasizing truthfulness and accuracy. Specifically, it adheres to ethical guidelines that prohibit deceptive practices and promote building trust with stakeholders. By focusing on authentic actions and transparent communication, the organization can build a credible reputation and foster long-term stakeholder relationships, which is a fundamental goal of strategic public relations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on amplifying positive media coverage without substantiating the claims with concrete evidence fails to uphold the principle of truthfulness. This can lead to accusations of greenwashing or misleading the public, damaging the organization's reputation and eroding trust. Such an approach also risks violating ethical codes that require PR professionals to act with honesty and integrity. Another incorrect approach that involves downplaying or omitting any challenges or criticisms related to the CSR initiatives, even if they are minor, represents a failure in transparency. Ethical PR practice demands a balanced and honest portrayal of the organization's activities, including acknowledging areas for improvement. Omitting such information can be seen as manipulative and can lead to significant backlash if discovered, undermining the very reputation the PR team is trying to build. A further incorrect approach that prioritizes short-term media attention over long-term stakeholder engagement neglects the strategic foundation of public relations. While immediate visibility is desirable, sustainable reputation management relies on building genuine relationships and demonstrating consistent ethical behavior. Focusing only on immediate gains without considering the broader impact on stakeholder perceptions is a strategic misstep. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough risk assessment of any proposed communication strategy. This involves evaluating potential reputational impacts, ethical considerations, and alignment with organizational values and stated commitments. The next step is to ensure all communications are grounded in factual accuracy and supported by evidence. Finally, professionals must consider the long-term implications of their communication strategies on stakeholder relationships and organizational reputation, prioritizing transparency and ethical conduct above all else. Question 5. The investigation demonstrates that a technology company is facing significant public scrutiny regarding the ethical implications of its new AI-driven product. The company's initial response has been to focus heavily on securing positive media coverage and issuing press releases that highlight the product's benefits. However, internal feedback suggests that employee morale is declining due to uncertainty about the product's impact on their roles, and local community groups are expressing concerns about potential job displacement. Which of the following approaches best reflects a comprehensive and ethically sound stakeholder engagement strategy for this situation? Option A. Intensify efforts to secure positive media placements and leverage influencer marketing to promote the product's innovation, while deferring direct communication with employees and community groups until the media narrative is more favorable. Option B. Focus exclusively on investor relations, providing them with detailed projections of the product's financial success and reassuring them that media coverage will be managed to protect shareholder value. Option C. Proactively engage with employees through town hall meetings and internal newsletters to address their concerns, simultaneously initiating dialogue with community leaders to understand and respond to their anxieties, while also continuing strategic media relations to communicate the company's commitment to responsible AI development. Option D. Issue a formal statement acknowledging the public concerns and immediately halt all product development until a comprehensive external review can be conducted, without direct engagement with internal or external stakeholders. The correct answer is C. Proactively engage with employees through town hall meetings and internal newsletters to address their concerns, simultaneously initiating dialogue with community leaders to understand and respond to their anxieties, while also continuing strategic media relations to communicate the company's commitment to responsible AI development. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a strategic public relations practitioner to navigate complex stakeholder relationships with competing interests, all while adhering to the specific regulatory framework and ethical guidelines of the Strategic Public Relations Certification exam. The core challenge lies in balancing the need for transparency and open communication with the potential for sensitive information to be mishandled or misinterpreted, impacting the organization's reputation and stakeholder trust. Careful judgment is required to identify the most influential stakeholders, understand their perspectives, and tailor communication strategies to build and maintain robust relationships. The correct approach involves a proactive and inclusive stakeholder engagement strategy that prioritizes building trust through consistent, transparent, and two-way communication. This approach recognizes that effective public relations is built on strong relationships with all relevant stakeholders, not just those with immediate financial interests. By actively listening to concerns, providing accurate information, and demonstrating a commitment to addressing stakeholder needs, the organization can foster goodwill and mitigate potential reputational risks. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty, integrity, and fairness, which are foundational to professional public relations practice and are implicitly or explicitly embedded in the regulatory framework governing such certifications. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on media relations without considering other key stakeholders would fail to build a comprehensive support base. This oversight could lead to alienation of crucial groups like employees or community members, whose perceptions can significantly influence public opinion and organizational success. Ethically, this approach is flawed as it neglects the principle of serving the broader public interest and maintaining relationships with all parties affected by the organization's actions. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes short-term crisis management over long-term relationship building would be detrimental. While crisis management is vital, a reactive stance that only engages stakeholders when problems arise erodes trust and suggests a lack of genuine commitment to their concerns. This approach is ethically questionable as it prioritizes damage control over authentic engagement and can be seen as manipulative. A third incorrect approach that involves selective engagement with only the most powerful or vocal stakeholders, while ignoring less influential but still relevant groups, is also professionally unsound. This can lead to perceptions of bias and inequity, undermining the organization's credibility. Ethically, it violates the principle of inclusivity and can result in overlooking critical perspectives that could inform better decision-making. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic stakeholder analysis, identifying all relevant groups, their interests, influence, and potential impact. This should be followed by the development of a tailored engagement plan that outlines communication objectives, key messages, and preferred channels for each stakeholder group. Continuous monitoring of stakeholder sentiment and feedback is crucial for adapting strategies and ensuring ongoing relationship health. Adherence to the ethical code of conduct for public relations professionals, as guided by the Strategic Public Relations Certification Framework, should be paramount throughout the process. Question 6. The analysis reveals that a prominent technology company has experienced a significant data breach, exposing sensitive customer information. This incident has led to widespread negative media coverage and a sharp decline in public trust. The company's leadership is seeking immediate guidance on how to manage this crisis and rebuild its reputation. Which of the following approaches best aligns with strategic public relations principles for long-term reputation management and brand building in this scenario? Option A. Engage in aggressive legal defense, emphasizing the company's lack of direct fault, and limit public statements to official legal disclaimers to avoid admitting any liability. Option B. Implement a series of paid influencer partnerships to promote positive brand messaging and encourage user-generated content that showcases the company's positive attributes, while downplaying the data breach in all official communications. Option C. Immediately launch a comprehensive public relations campaign that acknowledges the breach, expresses sincere apologies, outlines concrete steps being taken to secure data and support affected customers, and commits to ongoing transparent communication about security enhancements. Option D. Issue a brief statement acknowledging a minor technical issue and focus all communication efforts on highlighting the company's past successes and innovative products to distract from the negative news. The correct answer is C. Immediately launch a comprehensive public relations campaign that acknowledges the breach, expresses sincere apologies, outlines concrete steps being taken to secure data and support affected customers, and commits to ongoing transparent communication about security enhancements. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a strategic public relations practitioner to navigate the delicate balance between proactive brand building and reactive crisis management, all while adhering to the specific regulatory framework of the Strategic Public Relations Certification exam. The core challenge lies in selecting the most effective approach to address a sudden, negative reputational event, that could significantly impact long-term brand perception and value. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen strategy is not only effective in mitigating immediate damage, but also aligns with ethical principles and regulatory guidelines for transparent and responsible communication. The correct approach involves a multifaceted strategy that prioritizes immediate damage control while simultaneously laying the groundwork for long-term reputation recovery and brand rebuilding. This includes acknowledging the issue transparently, demonstrating empathy, outlining corrective actions, and engaging in consistent, authentic communication to rebuild trust. This approach is correct because it aligns with best practices in crisis communication and reputation management, emphasizing honesty, accountability, and a commitment to stakeholders. From a regulatory and ethical standpoint, this aligns with principles of transparency and fairness, crucial for maintaining public trust, and adhering to any implied or explicit guidelines within the Strategic Public Relations Certification Framework that would penalize obfuscation or denial. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on damage control without addressing the root cause or demonstrating accountability would fail to rebuild trust and could lead to further reputational erosion. This would be ethically problematic as it suggests a lack of sincerity and a potential disregard for stakeholder concerns. Another incorrect approach that involves aggressive denial or deflection of responsibility without substantiating evidence is also ethically unsound and can be legally perilous, potentially violating regulations that require truthful representation. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes short-term messaging over substantive action would be ineffective in the long run, as it fails to address the underlying issues that led to the crisis, thus undermining the credibility of the brand and the public relations efforts. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a rapid assessment of the crisis's impact, identification of key stakeholders, and an evaluation of potential communication strategies against ethical principles and regulatory requirements. A framework that prioritizes transparency, accountability, and a commitment to stakeholder well-being, while also considering the long-term implications for brand reputation, is essential. This involves asking, is the proposed action truthful? Is it fair to all stakeholders? Does it demonstrate accountability? Does it align with our long-term brand values and strategic objectives? Question 7. Benchmark analysis indicates that a publicly traded company is facing a significant operational disruption due to an unforeseen event. Initial internal reports suggest the impact may be substantial, but the full extent is still being assessed. The company's stock price has begun to show volatility. As the head of public relations, what is the most ethically and legally sound approach to managing external communications regarding this event, considering U.S. regulatory frameworks and principles of corporate governance? Option A. Issue a holding statement acknowledging awareness of the situation and promising further updates as verified information becomes available, while simultaneously working with legal and senior management to gather precise details for a comprehensive disclosure that complies with SEC regulations on material information and fair disclosure. Option B. Advise senior management to issue no public statement until the situation is fully resolved and all potential negative outcomes are definitively known, to avoid any premature or inaccurate reporting. Option C. Immediately release a statement downplaying the potential impact to reassure investors and stabilize the stock price based on preliminary, unconfirmed internal assessments. Option D. Leak selective, positive information to select media outlets to create a more favorable narrative, while the full impact is still being determined. The correct answer is A. Issue a holding statement acknowledging awareness of the situation and promising further updates as verified information becomes available, while simultaneously working with legal and senior management to gather precise details for a comprehensive disclosure that complies with SEC regulations on material information and fair disclosure. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires navigating the complex intersection of corporate governance, disclosure obligations, and ethical communication in a high-stakes environment. The public relations professional must balance the company's desire to present a positive image with the legal and ethical imperative for transparency and accuracy, particularly when dealing with potentially sensitive information that could impact investor confidence and public perception. The pressure to respond quickly can lead to missteps that have significant legal and reputational consequences. The correct approach involves a thorough, fact-based assessment of the situation, prioritizing accurate and timely disclosure in accordance with relevant regulatory frameworks. This means verifying all information before dissemination, understanding the legal implications of any statements made, and ensuring that communications align with corporate governance principles of transparency and accountability. Specifically, in the context of U.S. regulations, this would involve adhering to Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) rules regarding material non-public information and fair disclosure, Regulation FD. The ethical framework here emphasizes honesty, integrity, and acting in the public interest, which includes providing stakeholders with the information they need to make informed decisions. An incorrect approach would be to issue a premature, speculative, or misleading statement to manage immediate public perception. This could involve downplaying the severity of the issue without full understanding, or making unsubstantiated claims about the company's resilience. Such actions would violate ethical principles of honesty and accuracy, and could lead to legal repercussions such as charges of securities fraud or misrepresentation. Furthermore, failing to disclose material information promptly and accurately breaches corporate governance standards and regulatory requirements, eroding trust with investors and the public. Another incorrect approach is to remain silent or delay communication significantly, hoping the issue will resolve itself or go unnoticed. While caution is necessary, prolonged silence on a material issue can be interpreted as an attempt to conceal information, leading to accusations of a lack of transparency and potentially violating disclosure obligations. This can also fuel speculation and negative sentiment, which can be more damaging than a carefully managed, truthful communication. The professional decision-making process should involve a structured approach. First, gather all verifiable facts. Second, consult with legal counsel and relevant internal stakeholders, e.g., investor relations, senior management, to understand the legal and business implications. Third, develop a communication strategy that is truthful, accurate, and compliant with all applicable regulations. And fourth, execute the communication plan with a focus on transparency and managing stakeholder expectations responsibly. This process ensures that public relations efforts support, rather than undermine, the company's legal and ethical obligations. Question 8. To address the challenge of launching a new investment fund, a strategic public relations team is tasked with developing a comprehensive content strategy. They need to craft key messages, create press releases, social media posts, and website content that accurately represent the fund's objectives and risks, while strictly adhering to the regulatory framework governing financial communications in the United States. Which of the following approaches best ensures both effective communication and regulatory compliance? Option A. Focus on storytelling techniques that highlight the fund manager's expertise and past successes, using aspirational language to attract investors, and deferring detailed risk disclosures to a separate, less prominent document. Option B. Prioritize creating highly engaging and persuasive content that emphasizes potential returns and market opportunities, with a brief disclaimer about general investment risks included at the end of longer pieces. Option C. Utilize a variety of social media platforms to generate buzz and excitement, employing short, impactful messages that focus on the fund's unique selling propositions, with minimal emphasis on detailed financial information or regulatory disclosures. Option D. Develop content that clearly outlines the fund's investment strategy, potential risks, fees, and performance data, ensuring all claims are substantiated and reviewed by legal and compliance departments for adherence to SEC and FINRA guidelines. The correct answer is B. Prioritize creating highly engaging and persuasive content that emphasizes potential returns and market opportunities, with a brief disclaimer about general investment risks included at the end of longer pieces. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in strategic public relations, balancing the need to create compelling and engaging content with the absolute requirement of regulatory compliance. Specifically, when developing content for a new financial product launch, PR professionals must ensure all claims are accurate, not misleading, and adhere to the stringent disclosure requirements mandated by financial regulators. The challenge lies in crafting messages that are both persuasive to target audiences and fully compliant with legal and ethical standards, avoiding any misrepresentation or omission of material facts. The correct approach involves a meticulous process of message development and content creation that prioritizes accuracy, transparency, and adherence to regulatory guidelines. This includes thorough fact-checking of all product features and benefits, ensuring that any forward-looking statements are appropriately qualified and accompanied by risk disclosures, and that all promotional material is reviewed by legal and compliance departments before dissemination. This approach is correct because it directly aligns with the principles of responsible communication and the legal obligations of financial PR, preventing potential regulatory sanctions, reputational damage, and harm to consumers. For instance, in the U.S., the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, have specific rules regarding advertising and communications about financial products, emphasizing the need for fair and balanced presentations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on creating attention-grabbing headlines and emotionally resonant narratives without rigorous verification and compliance checks is fundamentally flawed. This would likely lead to the dissemination of misleading information, violating regulations that prohibit deceptive advertising and require full disclosure of risks. For example, making unsubstantiated claims about guaranteed returns or downplaying significant risks would constitute a violation of consumer protection laws and financial industry regulations. Another incorrect approach that involves using vague or ambiguous language to describe product performance or features, hoping to avoid direct misrepresentation, is also professionally unacceptable. While not overtly false, such ambiguity can still be considered misleading if it creates an unjustified impression of benefits or downplays risks. Regulators often scrutinize such tactics to ensure that the overall impression conveyed to the public is fair and accurate. Finally, an approach that relies on social media content alone, without a comprehensive content strategy that includes more formal disclosures and disclaimers where necessary, is also problematic. While social media is a powerful tool, its ephemeral nature and character limits can make it difficult to convey complex financial information and necessary disclosures adequately, potentially leading to regulatory breaches if not managed with extreme care and integrated into a broader, compliant communication plan. The professional decision-making process for such situations should involve a multi-stage review. First, understanding the product and its regulatory landscape. Second, developing core messages that are accurate and compliant. Third, creating content tailored to specific audiences and platforms, always with a compliance overlay. And fourth, obtaining formal approval from legal and compliance teams before any public release. This iterative process ensures that strategic communication objectives are met without compromising regulatory integrity. Question 9. The review process indicates that following the announcement of a significant organizational restructuring, employee morale has dipped, and there is a noticeable increase in workplace rumors. The internal communications team is tasked with developing a strategy to address this situation and rebuild trust. Which of the following approaches would be most effective and ethically sound in managing this internal communication challenge? Option A. Focus all communication efforts on external stakeholders to manage the company's public image, assuming that internal issues will resolve themselves once the external narrative is controlled. Option B. Issue a single, brief follow-up email to all employees reiterating the initial announcement and emphasizing the need for patience, with no further planned communication until all restructuring phases are complete. Option C. Disseminate detailed information about the restructuring only to department heads, instructing them to share information with their teams on a need-to-know basis, and to discourage any broader discussion. Option D. Implement a comprehensive communication plan that includes regular, transparent updates on the restructuring process via the company intranet and internal newsletters, coupled with town hall meetings and dedicated queue, and sessions with leadership to address employee concerns directly and provide opportunities for feedback. Correct answer is D. Implement a comprehensive communication plan that includes regular, transparent updates on the restructuring process via the company intranet and internal newsletters, coupled with town hall meetings and dedicated queue, and sessions with leadership to address employee concerns directly and provide opportunities for feedback. Explanation. The review process indicates a critical juncture in managing internal communications during a significant organizational restructuring. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for transparency and employee morale with the strategic imperative of controlling information flow during a sensitive period. Missteps can lead to widespread anxiety, rumors, decreased productivity, and damage to the company's internal reputation, potentially impacting external stakeholder perceptions. Careful judgment is required to ensure communication is timely, accurate, and empathetic, adhering to established ethical guidelines for employee relations and internal PR. The correct approach involves a multifaceted communication strategy that prioritizes clear, consistent, and empathetic messaging across multiple internal channels. This includes proactive updates via the intranet, targeted emails from leadership, and dedicated Q&A sessions. This approach is right because it directly addresses employee concerns, fosters a sense of inclusion, and mitigates the spread of misinformation. Ethically, it upholds the principle of treating employees with respect and dignity by providing them with the information they need to understand and adapt to changes. Regulatory frameworks, while not explicitly detailed here, generally support transparent employee communication, especially concerning matters that directly affect their employment. An incorrect approach would be to rely solely on a single, infrequent announcement without follow-up. This fails to provide employees with sufficient information or opportunities for clarification, leading to speculation and distrust. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of consideration for employee well-being and can be seen as a failure to engage in good faith communication. Another incorrect approach would be to communicate sensitive details only through informal channels or to specific groups, creating an information disparity. This fosters an environment of exclusion and can lead to perceptions of favoritism or a lack of transparency. Ethically, it violates principles of fairness and equal access to information. A third incorrect approach would be to delay communication until decisions are finalized, fearing premature disclosure. While strategic timing is important, an excessive delay can be detrimental. It allows rumors to fester and can create a perception that leadership is not being forthright, eroding trust. Ethically, this approach can be seen as manipulative and disrespectful of employees' right to be informed about significant organizational changes that impact them. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk assessment of communication strategies, considering potential employee reactions and the impact on morale. It requires developing a clear communication plan that outlines key messages, target audiences, communication channels, and a timeline. This plan should be reviewed by legal and HR departments to ensure compliance with any relevant employment laws and company policies. Empathy and transparency should be central tenets, with mechanisms for feedback and two-way communication built into the strategy. Question 10. What factors determine the most effective and ethically compliant strategy for building and maintaining relationships with government officials to advance public policy objectives within the UK regulatory framework for public affairs? Option A. A strategy that focuses on cultivating personal friendships with officials and offering exclusive access to organizational resources. Option B. A strategy that prioritizes transparent communication, accurate information dissemination, and strict adherence to the lobbying register and relevant codes of conduct. Option C. A strategy that emphasizes direct financial contributions to political campaigns and parties to ensure favorable consideration of policy positions. Option D. A strategy that involves discreetly sharing proprietary market research to subtly influence policy discussions. The correct answer is B. A strategy that prioritizes transparent communication, accurate information dissemination, and strict adherence to the lobbying register and relevant codes of conduct. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in public affairs, navigating the complex landscape of government relations while adhering to strict ethical and regulatory guidelines. Professional challenge lies in balancing the organization's advocacy goals with the imperative to maintain transparency, avoid undue influence, and comply with lobbying regulations. Careful judgment is required to ensure all interactions and communications are conducted with integrity and within the bounds of the law. The correct approach involves a comprehensive strategy that prioritizes ethical conduct, transparency, and adherence to all relevant legislation. This includes meticulous record-keeping of all lobbying activities, clear disclosure of all communications with government officials, and a commitment to providing accurate and unbiased information. This approach is justified by regulatory frameworks that mandate transparency in lobbying to prevent corruption and ensure public trust in the democratic process. For example, In the UK, the lobbying register requires individuals or organizations engaging in lobbying to declare their activities, promoting accountability. Similarly, ethical codes of conduct for public relations professionals emphasize honesty, accuracy, and integrity in all dealings, especially with public officials. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on achieving advocacy objectives without regard for transparency or disclosure would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would violate regulations requiring the registration of lobbyists and the disclosure of their activities, potentially leading to legal penalties and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that involves offering personal benefits or inducements to government officials, even if not explicitly illegal, would constitute an ethical breach. Such actions undermine the principle of impartial decision-making by public servants and erode public confidence, violating core ethical tenets of public relations and potentially contravening anti-bribery legislation. A third incorrect approach that relies on disseminating misleading or incomplete information to influence policy would also be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This contravenes the professional obligation to provide accurate information and could lead to policy decisions based on false premises, damaging both the organization and the public interest. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of all applicable laws and regulations governing lobbying and government relations. This should be followed by an assessment of the organization's objectives and the ethical implications of various strategies. Prioritizing transparency, accuracy, and integrity in all communications and interactions with government officials is paramount. Regular review of lobbying activities against regulatory requirements and ethical standards is crucial for maintaining compliance and professional credibility. Question 11. Quality control measures reveal that a public relations team is facing a rapidly unfolding crisis involving a potential product safety issue. The media is actively seeking comment, and social media is abuzz with speculation. The PR leader must decide on the immediate course of action. Which of the following approaches best aligns with strategic public relations principles and regulatory expectations for responsible communication? Option A. Issue a detailed statement addressing all speculative claims with specific counterarguments based on initial internal discussions to proactively manage the narrative. Option B. Immediately issue a statement acknowledging the reports and assuring the public that a full investigation is underway, while internally gathering all verified facts and consulting with legal and compliance teams before releasing further details. Option C. Remain silent and instruct the team to monitor the situation closely, waiting for definitive information before any public comment is made to avoid missteps. Option D. Release a brief, generic statement expressing concern and promising to provide updates as soon as possible, without delving into specifics or confirming any details. The correct answer is B. Immediately issue a statement acknowledging the reports and assuring the public that a full investigation is underway, while internally gathering all verified facts and consulting with legal and compliance teams before releasing further details. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in strategic public relations, balancing the need for rapid, impactful communication with the imperative of ethical and regulatory compliance. The pressure to respond quickly to a crisis, especially one involving potential reputational damage, can lead to shortcuts that compromise accuracy, transparency, and adherence to established communication protocols. The professional challenge lies in the leader's responsibility to guide their team through this high-stakes environment, ensuring that all actions are not only strategically sound, but also ethically defensible and legally compliant within the specified regulatory framework. The need for swift decision-making under pressure, coupled with the potential for significant consequences, demands a robust leadership approach grounded in established principles. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough, fact-based assessment before any communication is disseminated. This involves verifying information, consulting with relevant internal stakeholders, legal, compliance, senior management, and developing a communication strategy that is both accurate and aligned with regulatory requirements. This methodical process ensures that the public relations team acts with integrity, providing truthful and timely information while mitigating potential legal or reputational risks. This aligns with the core principles of professional public relations, emphasizing accuracy, honesty, and responsibility, which are implicitly or explicitly mandated by professional codes of conduct and regulatory oversight bodies that govern public communication. The emphasis on internal consultation also reflects good governance and risk management practices. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately issuing a statement based on initial, unverified reports. This risks disseminating misinformation, which can severely damage credibility and lead to regulatory scrutiny or legal repercussions. Bypasses the crucial step of fact-checking and strategic alignment, demonstrating a lack of due diligence and potentially violating ethical obligations to be truthful. Another incorrect approach is to delay communication indefinitely, while internal debates about messaging continue without a clear resolution. While thoroughness is important, prolonged silence in a crisis can be interpreted as evasiveness or an attempt to conceal information, further eroding trust and potentially allowing the narrative to be shaped by external, less informed sources. This approach fails to meet the ethical obligation for timely communication when public interest or safety is involved. A third incorrect approach is to focus solely on damage control and public perception, without adequately considering the factual accuracy or regulatory implications of the statements. This demonstrates a short-sighted strategy that prioritizes immediate image management over long-term credibility and compliance, which can lead to more significant problems down the line if the underlying issues are not addressed truthfully and transparently. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with information gathering and verification. This is followed by an assessment of potential impacts, consultation with relevant experts, legal, compliance, subject matter experts, and the development of a clear, factually accurate, and ethically sound communication strategy. In crisis situations, a pre-approved crisis communication plan, if available, should be activated. The ultimate goal is to communicate truthfully and transparently, in a timely manner, while adhering to all applicable laws and professional ethical standards. This balanced approach protects the organization's reputation and maintains public trust. Question 12. Stakeholder feedback indicates a desire for more engaging and impactful PR events, with particular concerns raised about the transparency of sponsorship arrangements and the perceived value of virtual event components. Considering the strategic objectives of enhancing brand reputation and fostering meaningful stakeholder relationships, which of the following approaches best addresses these concerns while adhering to best practices in event management for PR? Option A. Prioritize securing high-value sponsors by offering exclusive promotional opportunities, even if it means a less integrated experience for virtual attendees, and focus post-event evaluation primarily on media mentions and lead generation. Option B. Develop a comprehensive event strategy that integrates clear sponsorship value propositions for partners, ensures authentic engagement opportunities for all attendees, both virtual and in person, and implements a rigorous post-event evaluation process that includes direct stakeholder feedback and media sentiment analysis to inform future planning. Option C. Focus heavily on the technical aspects of virtual event delivery, assuming that a seamless technical experience will automatically translate to positive stakeholder perception, and defer detailed sponsorship discussions until after the event has concluded. Option D. Minimize the complexity of sponsorship agreements to expedite their finalization, and conduct a superficial post-event survey that only asks about overall satisfaction without delving into specific aspects of the event or sponsorship. The correct answer is B. Develop a comprehensive event strategy that integrates clear sponsorship value propositions for partners, ensures authentic engagement opportunities for all attendees, both virtual and in person, and implements a rigorous post-event evaluation process that includes direct stakeholder feedback and media sentiment analysis to inform future planning. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing diverse stakeholder expectations with the practicalities of event execution and the ethical imperative of transparency and fairness. The PR team must navigate potential conflicts of interest and ensure that all promotional activities are truthful and not misleading, adhering strictly to the principles of strategic public relations as outlined by the relevant professional bodies and regulatory frameworks applicable to the Strategic Public Relations Certification exam. The correct approach involves a comprehensive, integrated strategy that prioritizes clear communication, ethical sponsorship management, and robust post-event evaluation. This approach ensures that sponsorship agreements are transparently managed, benefits are clearly articulated to all parties, and the event's success is measured against predefined objectives, including stakeholder satisfaction and reputational impact. Adherence to professional codes of conduct, which emphasize integrity, accuracy, and accountability, is paramount. This includes ensuring that all marketing materials accurately reflect the event's offerings and that sponsorship benefits are delivered as promised, avoiding any misrepresentation that could damage the organization's reputation or violate consumer protection laws. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on maximizing sponsorship revenue without considering the impact on attendee experience or the integrity of event content would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to accusations of prioritizing profit over value, potentially violating ethical guidelines related to fair dealing and transparency. Another incorrect approach that neglects thorough post-event evaluation, particularly regarding stakeholder feedback and media coverage, would miss crucial opportunities for learning and improvement, hindering future strategic planning, and potentially failing to address any negative perceptions that may have arisen. Furthermore, an approach that overlooks the nuances of virtual event management, failing to adapt engagement strategies or technical considerations, would alienate a significant portion of the audience and undermine the event's objectives. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining event objectives and identifying all key stakeholders and their expectations. This should be followed by developing a detailed plan that integrates all aspects of event management, from budgeting and logistics to promotion and evaluation, ensuring ethical considerations and regulatory compliance are embedded throughout. Regular review and adaptation of the plan based on feedback and evolving circumstances are crucial. Question 13. Cost-benefit analysis shows that investing in public relations yields significant returns, but demonstrating this return requires careful measurement. A PR team has just concluded a campaign aimed at increasing positive brand perception and driving website traffic. They are preparing to report on the campaign's effectiveness. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates the strategic value and effectiveness of the PR campaign? Aligning with professional standards for measurement and evaluation. Option A. Presenting a comprehensive analysis that includes changes in key message pull-through and media coverage, shifts in target audience sentiment as measured by pre- and post-campaign surveys, and the volume of website traffic directly attributable to PR-generated content. Option B. Focusing on the total number of media placements secured and the estimated advertising value equivalency (AVE) of that coverage. Option C. Providing a summary of positive comments received from internal stakeholders and anecdotal evidence of improved public perception. Option D. Reporting solely on the number of social media posts published by the PR team and the total reach of those posts. The correct answer is B. Focusing on the total number of media placements secured and the estimated advertising value equivalency (AVE) of that coverage. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a PR professional to navigate the complexities of demonstrating tangible value from public relations efforts to stakeholders who may have differing expectations and levels of understanding regarding PR's impact. The core challenge lies in translating qualitative PR activities into measurable outcomes that align with business objectives, especially when faced with pressure to justify expenditure. Careful judgment is required to select appropriate metrics that are both meaningful and defensible, avoiding vanity metrics or those that are difficult to attribute directly to PR. The correct approach involves a strategic selection of evaluation metrics that directly link PR activities to predefined campaign objectives and broader business goals. This approach prioritizes measuring outcomes that demonstrate impact on stakeholder perception, behavior, or business results, such as changes in brand sentiment, media share of voice, website traffic driven by PR, or lead generation. This aligns with the principles of responsible PR practice, which emphasizes accountability and demonstrating return on investment. Specifically, within the context of the Strategic Public Relations Certification, this would involve adhering to ethical guidelines that mandate truthful and accurate reporting of results, ensuring that evaluation methods are robust and that conclusions drawn are supported by data. The focus is on demonstrating the strategic contribution of PR, not just the volume of activity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the volume of media mentions, without considering their sentiment or alignment with campaign objectives, fails to demonstrate strategic value. This is ethically problematic, as it can lead to misrepresentation of success and misallocation of resources. It also neglects the core purpose of PR, which is to build relationships and influence perceptions, not merely to generate noise. Another incorrect approach that relies exclusively on anecdotal feedback or internal opinions, without systematic data collection, lacks objectivity and credibility. This approach is susceptible to bias and cannot provide a reliable measure of campaign effectiveness. Ethically, it falls short of the professional standard for rigorous evaluation and can lead to decisions based on incomplete or skewed information. A further incorrect approach that prioritizes easily quantifiable but strategically irrelevant metrics, such as the number of social media posts regardless of engagement or impact, also fails to meet professional standards. While these metrics are easy to track, they do not necessarily reflect successful communication or achievement of PR objectives. This can lead to a superficial understanding of campaign performance and a failure to identify areas for genuine improvement. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of campaign objectives from the outset. This understanding should then guide the selection of appropriate, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART metrics. Professionals should prioritize outcome-based metrics over output-based metrics whenever possible. They should also be prepared to articulate the methodology used for evaluation and to present results in a clear, concise, and honest manner, acknowledging any limitations. This ensures transparency, builds trust with stakeholders, and allows for continuous improvement of PR strategies. Question 14. The assessment process reveals that a multinational corporation is planning a simultaneous product launch across 5 distinct regions, each with unique cultural values, media consumption habits, and regulatory frameworks. The PR team must develop a strategy that ensures brand consistency while resonating with local audiences and adhering to all applicable laws. Which of the following strategic considerations is most critical for ensuring a successful and ethically sound global public relations campaign in this context? Option A. Focusing primarily on leveraging international news outlets and global social media platforms to disseminate the launch message, assuming a broad reach will overcome local nuances. Option B. Prioritizing a standardized global message that emphasizes the product's universal benefits, with minimal adaptation for local markets to maintain brand uniformity. Option C. Conducting extensive cultural research and developing localized communication strategies, including adapting messaging, media channels, and stakeholder engagement tactics for each specific region, while ensuring alignment with a core global brand narrative. Option D. Delegating all regional communication responsibilities to local marketing teams without establishing a clear global PR oversight or consistent brand messaging guidelines. The correct answer is B. Prioritizing a standardized global message that emphasizes the product's universal benefits, with minimal adaptation for local markets to maintain brand uniformity. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a scenario where a global technology firm is launching a new product in multiple diverse markets simultaneously. This presents a significant professional challenge due to the inherent complexities of navigating vastly different cultural norms, communication styles, media landscapes, and regulatory environments. A misstep in any of these areas can lead to reputational damage, legal repercussions, and ultimately, a failed product launch. Careful judgment is required to balance a consistent global brand message with the necessity of local adaptation. The correct approach involves a nuanced strategy that prioritizes thorough cultural research and localized messaging, while maintaining a core brand identity. This aligns with the ethical imperative of respecting cultural differences and avoiding misrepresentation. From a regulatory standpoint, it ensures compliance with local advertising standards, data privacy laws, and communication protocols in each target region, thereby mitigating legal risks. This approach demonstrates a commitment to responsible global public relations practice. An incorrect approach that relies solely on a standardized, one-size-fits-all global campaign fails to acknowledge the diversity of target audiences. This can lead to messages being misunderstood, perceived as offensive, or simply ignored, resulting in ineffective communication and potential backlash. Ethically, it disrespects cultural nuances and can be seen as a form of cultural insensitivity. From a regulatory perspective, it increases the risk of non-compliance with local advertising and communication laws that are often culturally informed. Another incorrect approach that focuses exclusively on adapting messaging without considering the global media landscape is also problematic. This might lead to utilizing inappropriate channels or failing to leverage existing international media relationships, thus limiting reach and impact. It overlooks the interconnectedness of global media and the potential for cross-border information flow, which can be crucial for both positive promotion and crisis management. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of execution over in-depth stakeholder engagement in each region is also flawed. This can result in overlooking key local influencers, community leaders, or regulatory bodies, leading to a lack of buy-in and potential opposition. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of genuine engagement and can be perceived as superficial. Regulatory-wise, it can lead to unforeseen obstacles if critical stakeholders or authorities are not properly consulted or informed. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a phased approach. First, conduct comprehensive cultural and regulatory due diligence for each target market. Second, develop a core global messaging framework that is adaptable. Third, collaborate with local PR experts or agencies to tailor communication strategies, media plans, and stakeholder engagement tactics for each region. Fourth, implement a robust monitoring system to track reception and address any emerging issues promptly, with a clear crisis communication plan in place for international scenarios. Question 15. The control framework reveals that a public relations manager is preparing to issue a press release announcing a company's quarterly earnings. The manager has drafted the release, highlighting positive trends and projecting continued growth, but has not yet had it reviewed by the legal department or the chief financial officer. The manager is concerned about the tight deadline for market release and wants to ensure the company appears proactive in its communication. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory compliance and ethical financial public relations practices? Option A. Issue the press release immediately to meet the market deadline, relying on the manager's understanding of financial reporting and general PR best practices. Option B. Share the draft press release with a select group of industry analysts for their feedback before a full regulatory review. Option C. Delay the release until it has been thoroughly reviewed by the legal and finance departments, ensuring all figures are verified and all statements comply with relevant securities regulations. Option D. Include a disclaimer in the press release stating that the information is preliminary and subject to change, then release it to meet the deadline. The correct answer is A. Issue the press release immediately to meet the market deadline, relying on the manager's understanding of financial reporting and general PR best practices. Explanation. The control framework reveals a common challenge in financial public relations, balancing the need for timely and transparent communication with regulatory obligations and the potential for market misinterpretation. This scenario is professionally challenging because a public relations professional must navigate complex disclosure requirements, ensure accuracy, and avoid inadvertently misleading investors or the market, all while managing the company's reputation. The pressure to release information quickly, especially during periods of market volatility or significant company news, can create a tension between speed and compliance. The correct approach involves a thorough review and approval process that prioritizes regulatory compliance and factual accuracy. This means ensuring all financial communications, including press releases and investor presentations, are reviewed by legal and finance departments to confirm adherence to relevant securities laws and stock exchange listing rules. The communication should be clear, concise, and avoid speculative language or forward-looking statements that are not adequately qualified or substantiated. This approach is right because it directly aligns with the core principles of financial public relations: transparency, accuracy, and compliance. Specifically, in the U.S. context, this would involve adherence to Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC regulations such as Regulation FD, Fair Disclosure, which mandates that material non-public information be disclosed broadly and simultaneously to all investors. It also upholds ethical standards by preventing selective disclosure and promoting a level playing field for all market participants. An incorrect approach would be to disseminate preliminary financial information without proper verification or legal review. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure because it risks releasing inaccurate or incomplete data, which could lead to investor confusion, market manipulation allegations, and potential SEC enforcement actions for violating disclosure rules. Another incorrect approach would be to use vague or overly optimistic language in financial reports that exaggerates performance without clear substantiation. This constitutes a failure to communicate financial performance accurately and transparently, potentially misleading investors and violating principles of fair dealing. Furthermore, failing to consult with legal counsel before issuing a press release on a sensitive financial matter is a critical oversight, as it bypasses essential checks for compliance with disclosure obligations and could expose the company to legal liabilities. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying all applicable regulatory requirements. This is followed by a rigorous internal review process involving all relevant departments: legal, finance, investor relations. Before any external communication, a risk assessment should be conducted to identify potential misinterpretations or regulatory pitfalls. Finally, a clear communication protocol should be established and followed for all financial announcements, ensuring consistency and accuracy. Question 16. The evaluation methodology shows that a global technology firm is exploring the integration of advanced AI tools to significantly enhance its public relations efforts. The firm is considering using AI for automated press release generation, real-time social media monitoring and response, and personalized stakeholder outreach. Given the strategic objectives of building trust and maintaining a strong brand reputation, which of the following approaches best aligns with ethical and effective strategic public relations practices in the context of emerging technologies? Option A. Fully automate press release generation and social media responses using AI, prioritizing speed and volume of communication to maximize reach. Option B. Utilize AI for personalized stakeholder outreach, generating messages that mimic human interaction without disclosing the AI's involvement to enhance engagement. Option C. Implement AI for automated press release generation and personalized outreach, with a robust human review process for accuracy, strategic alignment, and ethical considerations before dissemination. Option D. Employ AI primarily for sentiment analysis and trend identification, but avoid using it for content creation or direct stakeholder communication to mitigate potential risks. The correct answer is C. Implement AI for automated press release generation and personalized outreach, with a robust human review process for accuracy, strategic alignment, and ethical considerations before dissemination. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the rapid evolution of AI in public relations and the inherent need for ethical and transparent communication. The core difficulty lies in balancing the efficiency gains offered by AI with the imperative to maintain authenticity, accuracy, and accountability in PR messaging, all within the specific regulatory framework governing public relations in the United States, as implied by the context of a strategic public relations certification, which often aligns with U.S. professional standards and ethical codes. Professionals must navigate the potential for AI-generated content to be misleading or to obscure the human oversight and strategic intent behind communications. The correct approach involves leveraging AI as a sophisticated tool to augment human strategic thinking and execution, rather than as a replacement for it. This means using AI for tasks like sentiment analysis, trend identification, content ideation, and initial draft generation, but always with rigorous human review, fact-checking, and strategic alignment before dissemination. This approach aligns with ethical PR principles of honesty, accuracy, and transparency, as well as the implied regulatory expectation of responsible communication. It ensures that AI serves the strategic objectives of the PR campaign without compromising the integrity of the message or the reputation of the organization. An incorrect approach that relies solely on AI for content creation without human oversight fails to uphold the ethical obligation of accuracy and truthfulness. This could lead to the dissemination of misinformation or biased content, potentially violating advertising standards and consumer protection laws if the communications are promotional. Another incorrect approach that uses AI to generate personalized messages without clear disclosure of AI involvement could be seen as deceptive, eroding trust with the audience, and potentially contravening guidelines around transparency in automated communications. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes the speed of AI deployment over the strategic nuance and ethical considerations of the message risks creating communications that are technically correct but strategically unsound or ethically questionable, failing to build genuine relationships or achieve long-term communication goals. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and strategic alignment when integrating AI. This involves a thorough understanding of the capabilities and limitations of AI tools, a commitment to human oversight at critical junctures, and a proactive approach to transparency with stakeholders regarding the use of AI. The process should involve assessing the potential risks and benefits of AI integration for each specific campaign, ensuring that AI enhances, rather than compromises, the core principles of strategic public relations. Question 17. The monitoring system demonstrates a significant increase in negative sentiment and mentions of a specific product defect across social media and news outlets. The organization has a comprehensive crisis communication plan in place, but this specific defect was not explicitly identified as a high-probability risk during the last planning cycle. Which of the following actions represents the most strategically sound and ethically responsible initial response? Option A. Issue a public statement acknowledging the online discussion and assuring stakeholders that the company is investigating, without providing specific details or committing to a timeline, to avoid premature or inaccurate information. Option B. Temporarily disable social media comments and limit public communication channels until a thorough internal investigation can be completed to ensure all information released is factually accurate. Option C. Instruct the social media team to proactively engage with negative comments, offering individual apologies and solutions to users to de-escalate the situation on a case-by-case basis. Option D. Immediately activate the crisis communication team, conduct a rapid assessment of the situation's severity and potential impact, and begin developing specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART, objectives for the immediate response, referencing the existing crisis plan for guidance on protocols and stakeholder engagement. The correct answer is D. Immediately activate the crisis communication team, conduct a rapid assessment of the situation's severity and potential impact, and begin developing specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART, objectives for the immediate response, referencing the existing crisis plan for guidance on protocols and stakeholder engagement. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in strategic public relations: the need to respond to emerging issues based on real-time monitoring while adhering to established planning frameworks and ethical considerations. The professional challenge lies in balancing the urgency of a potential crisis with the need for a well-researched, objective-driven, and resource-allocated response, all within the regulatory and ethical boundaries of the specified jurisdiction. Careful judgment is required to avoid knee-jerk reactions that could exacerbate the situation or violate communication protocols. The correct approach involves a systematic process of evaluating the monitoring data within the context of the organization's existing crisis communication plan and strategic objectives. This entails first assessing the severity and potential impact of the identified issue, then determining if it triggers predefined crisis protocols. If it does, the next step is to activate the crisis team, conduct a rapid situational analysis, potentially a focused SWOT or PESTLE update if time permits and the situation warrants, and then develop specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound SMART objectives for the immediate response. This approach ensures that actions are strategic, aligned with organizational goals, and ethically sound, prioritizing transparency and accuracy, as mandated by general public relations ethical codes, and any relevant industry-specific regulations regarding public statements. An incorrect approach would be to immediately issue a public statement without proper internal assessment or objective setting. This bypasses crucial steps in crisis management, potentially leading to inaccurate or premature information being released, which can damage credibility and violate ethical principles of truthfulness and accuracy. It also fails to consider the resource implications and the strategic alignment of the response, Another incorrect approach is to ignore the monitoring alert, assuming it is not significant enough to warrant attention. This demonstrates a failure in proactive risk management and could lead to a missed opportunity to mitigate a developing crisis, potentially resulting in greater reputational damage and regulatory scrutiny if the issue escalates and the organization is seen as unresponsive or negligent. A third incorrect approach would be to delegate the response solely to a junior team member without clear guidance or oversight, or to rely on ad hoc communication tactics without a strategic framework. This risks inconsistent messaging, a lack of accountability, and a failure to meet communication objectives, potentially leading to unintended consequences and a breach of professional standards that emphasize competence and due diligence. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear protocol for monitoring and escalation. When an alert is received, the first step is to assess its credibility and potential impact. If it suggests a potential crisis, the established crisis communication plan should be consulted. This plan should outline roles, responsibilities, communication channels, and initial response steps. The team should then conduct a rapid assessment, define clear objectives for the response, and allocate resources accordingly. All communication should be reviewed for accuracy, consistency, and ethical compliance before dissemination. Question 18. Stakeholder feedback indicates a significant product defect has been identified, potentially impacting consumer safety. The organization has confirmed the defect internally, but has not yet publicly acknowledged it. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory compliance and ethical crisis communication principles for the Strategic Public Relations Certification exam? Option A. Issue a brief statement confirming an ongoing review of product performance without detailing the specific defect or its potential impact. Option B. Immediately issue a public statement acknowledging the defect, outlining the steps being taken to address it, and providing clear guidance to affected consumers, while also initiating an internal review to prevent recurrence. Option C. Focus all communication efforts on highlighting the product's positive attributes and downplaying the significance of any reported issues. Option D. Wait for regulatory bodies to initiate an investigation before making any public statements to avoid premature admissions of fault. The correct answer is B. Immediately issue a public statement acknowledging the defect, outlining the steps being taken to address it, and providing clear guidance to affected consumers, while also initiating an internal review to prevent recurrence. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing immediate crisis response with long-term reputational management, all while adhering to the specific regulatory framework of the Strategic Public Relations Certification exam. The core difficulty lies in navigating the complex interplay between stakeholder expectations, potential legal ramifications, and the ethical imperative to communicate transparently and accurately during a crisis. Careful judgment is essential to avoid actions that could exacerbate the situation or lead to regulatory penalties. The correct approach involves a structured, proactive, and stakeholder-centric response that aligns with established crisis communication principles and regulatory guidelines. This approach prioritizes accurate information dissemination, empathy, and a clear commitment to resolution, thereby mitigating reputational damage and demonstrating responsible corporate citizenship. Regulatory justification stems from the implicit requirement within strategic public relations to maintain public trust and adhere to ethical communication standards, which are often underpinned by broader legal frameworks governing corporate conduct and disclosure. An approach that focuses solely on damage control without addressing the root cause or engaging stakeholders transparently would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would likely violate ethical communication principles by prioritizing self-preservation over stakeholder well-being and could lead to accusations, deception, or cover-up. Such actions could also have legal repercussions if they involve misleading statements or omissions of material information, potentially contravening regulations related to corporate disclosure and consumer protection. Another incorrect approach would be to delay communication or provide vague, non-committal statements. Failure to act decisively and transparently can erode trust, create a vacuum that misinformation fills, and signal a lack of accountability. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for stakeholders' right to know and their need for reassurance. Legally, Prolonged silence or evasiveness in the face of a significant issue can be interpreted as an attempt to conceal information, potentially leading to regulatory scrutiny. A third incorrect approach might involve blaming external factors or third parties without taking responsibility. This deflects accountability and can be perceived as unprofessional and untrustworthy. Ethically, it fails to acknowledge the organization's role or responsibility in the situation. From a regulatory perspective, such misdirection can be problematic if it leads to inaccurate public statements or hinders investigations into the root cause of the crisis. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a rapid assessment of the crisis, identification of key stakeholders and their concerns, development of clear and consistent messaging, designation of trained spokespersons, and a commitment to ongoing communication and evaluation. Professionals must constantly refer to the specific regulatory framework governing their practice, ensuring all actions are compliant and ethically sound. This involves a proactive stance on issues management, anticipating potential risks, and building robust crisis communication plans that are regularly reviewed and updated. Question 19. Quality control measures reveal that a recent influencer marketing campaign for a new sustainable fashion brand has achieved high engagement rates across social media platforms. However, a review of the campaign's execution indicates that while some influencers mentioned their partnership with the brand, the disclosures were not always prominent or consistently applied across all posts, and the specific nature of the partnership, e.g., gifted products vs. paid promotion, was not always clear. The PR team is now tasked with assessing the impact of these disclosure inconsistencies on the campaign's overall effectiveness and compliance. Which of the following approaches best addresses this situation from a strategic public relations and regulatory compliance perspective? Option A. Advise the brand to discontinue all influencer marketing efforts indefinitely due to the perceived complexity and risk associated with disclosure regulations, and pivot entirely to own media channels for brand communication. Option B. Focus solely on the positive engagement metrics and brand sentiment analysis, considering the disclosure issues a minor oversight that can be addressed with a brief, generic statement to regulatory bodies if prompted, without altering current influencer practices. Option C. Immediately cease all influencer activity, conduct a full internal audit of all past and present influencer collaborations to identify all instances of inadequate disclosure, and implement a mandatory, standardized disclosure protocol for all future influencer engagements, ensuring clear and conspicuous identification of commercial relationships. Option D. Acknowledge the high engagement rates as a primary indicator of success and instruct influencers to simply add a general disclaimer about potential partnerships in their bios, assuming this will satisfy regulatory requirements moving forward. Correct answer is C. Immediately cease all influencer activity, conduct a full internal audit of all past and present influencer collaborations to identify all instances of inadequate disclosure, and implement a mandatory, standardized disclosure protocol for all future influencer engagements, ensuring clear and conspicuous identification of commercial relationships. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a strategic PR professional to navigate the complexities of influencer marketing within a regulated environment, specifically focusing on disclosure and transparency. The challenge lies in ensuring that all promotional activities are compliant with relevant advertising standards and consumer protection laws, while also maintaining the authenticity and credibility of the campaign. A careful balance must be struck between achieving campaign objectives and upholding ethical and legal obligations. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the regulatory framework governing influencer marketing. This includes identifying specific guidelines on disclosure of paid partnerships, ensuring that influencers clearly and conspicuously communicate their commercial relationship with the brand. This approach is right because it prioritizes compliance with advertising standards and consumer protection laws, which are designed to prevent deceptive practices and ensure consumers are not misled. Adherence to these regulations builds trust with the audience and protects the brand from potential legal repercussions and reputational damage. An incorrect approach that fails to ensure clear and conspicuous disclosure of paid partnerships by influencers is professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a breach of advertising standards and consumer protection laws, as it can mislead consumers into believing content is organic when it is, in fact, paid promotion. Such a failure can lead to regulatory penalties, damage to brand reputation, and erosion of consumer trust. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on the influencer's discretion for disclosure, without providing clear guidelines or a verification process, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and oversight, increasing the risk of noncompliance. The PR professional has a responsibility to ensure that all campaign elements meet regulatory requirements, not to delegate this responsibility entirely. A third incorrect approach that focuses only on engagement metrics and overlooks the disclosure requirements of paid partnerships is ethically and legally flawed. While engagement is important, it cannot supersede the fundamental obligation to be transparent with consumers about commercial relationships. This approach prioritizes short-term campaign success over long-term ethical conduct and legal compliance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a proactive risk assessment of all campaign elements, particularly those involving third-party endorsements. This includes thoroughly researching and understanding all applicable regulations, developing clear internal guidelines for partners, and implementing a robust monitoring and verification process to ensure ongoing compliance. Prioritizing transparency and ethical conduct, even if it requires additional effort or adjustments to campaign strategy, is paramount to building sustainable and trustworthy public relations. Question 20. Process analysis reveals that a technology firm is undergoing significant research and development for a groundbreaking new product line that is still several years from market launch. The marketing department is eager to generate significant pre-launch buzz and investor interest. The public relations team is tasked with developing a communication strategy to address this. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the foundational principles of strategic public relations and ethical communication in this context? Option A. Craft a series of press releases and social media posts that hint at revolutionary features and capabilities of the upcoming products, using speculative language and promising a transformative user experience without providing concrete details. Option B. Advise the company to maintain complete silence regarding any future product development, focusing solely on current offerings to avoid any potential misinterpretations or unmet expectations. Option C. Release carefully curated, unverified snippets of information about potential product specifications and functionalities to create intrigue and encourage speculation among tech journalists and industry influencers. Option D. Develop a communication strategy that highlights the company's commitment to innovation and its ongoing investment in future technologies, while clearly stating that specific product details and timelines are not yet available for public disclosure. The correct answer is D. Develop a communication strategy that highlights the company's commitment to innovation and its ongoing investment in future technologies, while clearly stating that specific product details and timelines are not yet available for public disclosure. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a strategic public relations practitioner to navigate the complex interplay between an organization's desire for positive public perception and the ethical imperative to provide accurate and transparent information, especially when dealing with sensitive product development. The challenge lies in balancing promotional goals with the foundational principles of public relations, particularly honesty and integrity, while also considering the potential impact on stakeholder trust and the organization's reputation. Careful judgment is required to ensure that communication strategies are not only effective in achieving business objectives, but also ethically sound and compliant with relevant professional guidelines. The correct approach involves developing a communication strategy that acknowledges the organization's commitment to innovation and future product development without making premature or unsubstantiated claims. This aligns with the core principles of public relations, emphasizing truthfulness and accuracy. It also reflects an understanding of communication theories like agenda setting, where the PR function can influence public discourse by highlighting areas of focus, but must do so responsibly. Furthermore, this approach supports the concept of integrated marketing communications, IMC, by ensuring that PR efforts are coordinated with other marketing activities, presenting a consistent and credible message. Adhering to ethical codes, such as those promoted by professional bodies, assuming a relevant professional body's code is implicitly part of the exam's jurisdiction, which mandate transparency and avoidance of misleading statements, is paramount. This approach also contributes positively to reputation management by fostering trust and credibility. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on generating excitement and anticipation through speculative language and vague promises would fail ethically and professionally. This would violate the principle of truthfulness and could lead to accusations of misleading the public or investors, thereby damaging the organization's reputation. Such an approach ignores the potential for negative consequences if the anticipated products do not materialize as implied, or if they fall short of the generated hype. It also risks undermining the credibility of future communications. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes secrecy and avoids any mention of future product development, even in a general sense, would be professionally suboptimal. While it avoids the risk of overpromising, it misses a strategic opportunity to engage stakeholders, demonstrate forward thinking, and build anticipation for the organization's future. This passive stance can lead to a perception of stagnation and a lack of innovation, negatively impacting reputation and competitive positioning. It fails to leverage the strategic role of PR in shaping organizational perception and contributing to long-term growth. A third incorrect approach that involves selectively releasing partial, unverified information about potential product features to generate buzz would be ethically problematic and professionally damaging. This practice borders on deception and can lead to significant reputational harm if the information is later proven inaccurate or incomplete. It erodes stakeholder trust and can have legal ramifications, especially if it influences investment decisions or consumer purchasing behavior. This approach directly contradicts the ethical obligation to be honest and transparent in all communications. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of the organization's objectives, the current market landscape, stakeholder expectations, and the ethical implications of various communication strategies. It requires a deep understanding of PR theories and models to select the most appropriate framework for engagement. Practitioners must prioritize accuracy, transparency, and integrity, ensuring that all communications are truthful and avoid misleading stakeholders. This involves a proactive approach to reputation management, building trust through consistent, ethical practices, and integrating PR efforts within a broader IMC strategy.